All right, so we're going to talk about AI, the buzzword. We all hear about AI and generative AI, but what is it actually and what is it going to mean? We've just heard about how transformational it's been in healthcare just now. So we have someone straight from the Silicon Valley to unpick and unpack all this. You've been Tom Siebel, chairman of CEO of C3 AI. You've been at the forefront of innovation in software for a while. So tell us first what your company does when it comes to AI, and then we'll go into the bigger conversation about generative AI later.
Thank you. Good morning, Charlotte. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Siebel. I'm a computer scientist, and I've been in the information technology industry now for over 4 decades. I was one of the very early people at Oracle Corporation, which that turned out to be a pretty good idea. I was one of the people who ran that business. I later founded a company called Siebel Systems. We invented this market you know of as CRM, and that was a large and successful company. And yes, our European headquarters was right here in Paris. And then when I got involved in the information technology business, it was about a $200 billion business globally. Today it would be like $9 trillion. And after my company Siebel was acquired by my former colleague Larry Ellison, we started thinking about what was next. And we thought next was about elastic cloud computing, big data, the Internet of Things, and we thought this would enable predictive analytics or enterprise AI. So in 2009, we started work, and we spent about $3 billion building a software platform. And the idea behind this software platform is it would allow us to design, develop, provision, operate massive scale enterprise AI applications in manufacturing, in pharmaceutical, in precision health, in financial services, in consumer packaged goods, travel, transportation. Today, C3 AI is a public company, and we deliver 130 turnkey enterprise AI applications that are applied across these industries for business problems like drug discovery, business problems like supply chain optimization, demand forecasting, customer churn, production optimizations. These are very, very high value business propositions. And we deploy these applications at some of the largest companies in the world, at Shell in oil and gas, and ExxonMobil in oil and gas, and Holcim in construction products, and Cargill in the delivery of $100 billion worth of protein, United States Air Force for predictive maintenance for aircraft. And so we have the privilege of serving some of the world's iconic organizations in Europe, in Asia, and in North and South America to apply AI to allow them to deliver products at lower cost into the hands of more satisfied consumers at lower environmental impact. So that's my background in AI.
So that's enterprise AI, as you were saying, to help with supply chain, manufacturing, and optimize things. Of course, now there's generative AI, so that's an added layer to all this. So how is that a game changer as well for your business model and just overall for business?
Generative AI is game changing. Now, when we get to AI, as we think about AI, what we do in enterprise AI and traditional AI, what you think of as AI, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, TD learning, reinforcement learning, there's nothing new here, okay? This was all invented in 1950 by a person by the name of Marvin Minsky at Princeton, okay? It just took us, 70 years to be able to do something with it. So this is really old stuff, almost as old as the transistor. The transistor would be 1948, right? And so he did this work in 1950. It just took us 70 years to get the computing power and the storage power to be able to actually solve the problems. Now, generative AI is fundamentally something different, okay? And it is very important. They stumbled upon generative AI in the course of trying to invent AGI, something we need to talk about. Artificial general intelligence. This is the idea that where we have sentient computing, where the computer is smarter than a human being. Don't worry about it. It doesn't happen soon. But in the course of that, they stumbled upon generative AI. Now, for those, this is how important is this? It is huge. Okay, what's the economic benefit associated with generative AI? It's difficult to describe. But what it does is very little. And for those of you who are interested, I recommend that you learn about this, because it is going to change your life. It's going to change the way you do business. It's going to change the way that you entertain yourselves. It's going to change the way that you communicate. I've been looking for a good book on this subject for 2 years, and most of it's just pure drivel. Okay, and I finally found one called, what is ChatGPT doing, and why does it work? And it's written by a person by the name of Stephen Wolfram, who's a very famous member of the Academy in North America, a physicist from Caltech. And he describes in the first 51 pages of this exactly what these generative AI models do, which is very little. Okay, the small class of problems that they solve. Basically what they do is that it turns out that language, okay, and writing, whether you're doing this language as Fortran or COBOL or C or English or French, okay, these are all different languages, right? That constructing grammatically correct sentences and paragraphs in whatever language might be is a very simple problem, and that's all that they do. Okay, but he describes exactly the way that these things work for you, exactly how they're put together. He'll talk about the nature of these things we call embeddings. But what becomes very clear from these models, and you will be using these language models every day, whether you know it or not. Perhaps you are today. The most fascinating thing that you will really read, and they'll become as a startling disappointment to many of you who want to regulate this, okay, is that unlike other forms of computing going back to, say, 1945, okay, there really is voodoo involved in this, okay, and we can't, even those of us who develop these models every day, we really have no idea how they actually work. Okay? It is indescribable. Okay, so the idea that we're going to stand up a regulatory body to inspect these algorithms to determine that they're safe, you can get over that. Okay, that's impossible. If those of us who author them, don't know how they work, okay, it's very difficult for a third party to look at it and determine it's safe. But this is very important stuff, and you will be using it every day. I think one of the most important applications of it will be it's going to fundamentally change the nature of the human-computer interface. I think we've done a horrible job on the human-computer interface, whether we're dealing with applications like the Bloomberg terminal, with which you have to be familiar, or many of you in your companies use SAP or Salesforce or Siebel or something like that. And these are all entirely unusable applications, but for some specialist. Well, the next generation of the human-computer interface will be the Mosaic browser. Okay, Mosaic browser, you know it as the Google browser. The Mosaic browser spun out of the University of Illinois in 1993. It'll simply be a line, and you'll ask a question, you'll get the answer. And that will be the human-computer interface to every application that you use, and it will be enabled by generative AI.
So looking at those large language models, there's been obviously billions thrown at it. But a lot of the large tech companies have said that it's kind of hit a wall to a certain extent in terms of progress. Like the next step seems to be harder to reach. And that the idea of throwing more money at it is not the solution right now. And that we're kind of moving towards smaller models in a way. So what's your view on this?
I think there's a range of opinions on this. Okay, so my friend Sundar at Google will say that it's hit a wall. Well, that's because Google's like in last place. Okay, so they have a problem. Okay, now if you talk with Sam Altman at OpenAI, he will argue that they're going to hit artificial general intelligence. This is sentient computing, like next week. Okay, so there's a range of, there are those who think we have a long way to go, and those who think that we're done. The fact is, we have a long way to go. Okay, and it's the amount that is being invested in this technology. It is billions of dollars. We are going to see fantastic breakthroughs.
And also, we have a long way to go to actually make money from it. We talk about ChatGPT. They're going to make, was it $5 billion loss this year? It's a lot of money, a lot of investment. We actually not made money from it.
I think they lose about $7 billion a year.
Oh my God.
And it's a little bit crazy.
So when are we going to start to make money from it?
I think lots of do I think that the people who make the large language models, are they going to make money? I'm not sure. Will the people who use large language models to build applications make money? Absolutely. I mean, whether we're dealing with precision health, whether we're applying AI for delivery of government services, Medicare, Medicaid, social programs like you have in the United States and in France, the economic benefits are staggering, and I mean, it's $1 trillion addressable market, so that would be as large a market as we've seen in the information technology business.
And yet, on that note, there's a fear that this could be a bubble, and that investors might freak out soon enough that actually there's not money coming from it. There's a lot of money going in, but there's not a lot of money coming out.
Is there a bubble? Absolutely, there's a bubble. Now, the bubbles are not new. I mean, every time we have new technology breakthroughs, the market tends to overvaluate them. Let's look at in the middle of the 19th century in the United States, we had transcontinental railroads. The market just went crazy, in a spike, and then it was followed by a deep recession. If we get to urban electrification in the beginning part of the 20th century, this would be George Westinghouse and Thomas Edison, right? Urban electrification, how important was that? Well, it was huge. It brought on the Roaring '20s, followed by the Great Depression. If we think about the dot-com bubble in 1999 or 2000, we're associated with the internet. Well, how important is the internet? I mean, come on, people. However big we thought it was in 1999, it's 3 orders of magnitude larger than that. But did the market overvalue those companies? Absolutely. Now, as it relates to AI, I mean, the valuation of some of these crypto companies is simply crazy. And now, I'm not calling the top of this market, and these things can go for a while. And they say that, who was it? John Maynard Keynes, I think, who said that markets can remain irrational longer than a rational investor can remain solvent. But you have companies like OpenAI with 500 people, 700 people, losing, I don't know, $6-7 billion a year, that just was raising money at, I think, $156 billion market cap. People, that would be the market cap of Shell. Now, if on CNBC tomorrow morning, the opening story was that OpenAI had gone out of business, none of us would be surprised. None of us would be surprised. It would, and by the way, it wouldn't make any difference. Nobody would know it was gone. And if Shell disappeared tomorrow, believe me, you'd know it was gone. If Nvidia disappeared tomorrow, you'd know it was gone. If TSMC disappeared tomorrow, it'd be the end of the world. But so, is there a bubble? Absolutely, there's a bubble. Is the market overvaluating these technologies? It is. Is this likely to go on for a while? It is. Will it correct at some point? It will, and then we'll get on with it. But it is big.
Yeah. You mentioned sentient AI a couple of times. Is it ex machina, space odyssey? Just how realistic, how real is the concerns around
this idea that your smart refrigerator is going to take over your house? Get over it. This doesn't happen. I mean, this is just absolute crazy talk. I mean, the largest computer clusters that we can spool up might be like 20,000 GPUs. This might be, $500 million worth of computing capacity that takes, 20 megawatts of power, to operate, that we use to train these learning models. And what do these learning models do? I mean, almost nothing, right? I mean, these guys have the intellectual capacity of a mealworm compared to the human mind. I mean, let's look at what's going on in the human mind. The human mind, we have 10,000, 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion simultaneous connections. Okay, and those connections are not digital, they're analog. These are neurotransmitters and neuromodulators like serotonin and dopamine. I mean, the complexity of the human mind is just vast. Okay, and I mean, we're, what we do with the most powerful computer cluster that we can stand up today might have the intellectual capacity of a mealworm compared to the human mind. So we're not even close. And if you get to the the biggest optimist, like the CEO of Google DeepMind, will say there's a 50% probability that we have sentient computing by 2030. Personally, and people are worried what might happen in 2030. How about worry about what's going on now with AI? I mean, now. I mean, people, what's going on there are some very, very real abuses going on in the world with AI, and this is December of 2024, and why aren't we outraged? Let's not worry about what might happen in 2030 or 2040. I mean, how about social media? The social media might be the most destructive invention in the history of mankind. I mean, no, seriously. I mean, we know this is a public health hazard. Do any of you have teenage daughters? Do any of you have teenage granddaughters? Suicide, body image issues, depression, direct link between that and social media. People want to talk about, how about slave trade? December 2024, there are 50 million people enslaved on the planet Earth. 50 million today. Okay, the primary exchange trade for the slave trade, okay, in North Africa, in Asia, okay, in China, it's Facebook. I mean, it's well documented. Okay, and why aren't we outraged? These technologies are being used in Europe. They're being used in North America. They're being used in the UK to interfere with democratic processes. They're certainly in the 2000 election in the United States. Certainly with Brexit, Russians, Koreans, Iranians, and whatnot. And this calls into question whether we can conduct democratic processes. How about finally the right to be forgotten? I mean, come on, this is a fundamental human right. I mean, who's against that? I mean, why can't any one of us today contact Google, Facebook, Microsoft, whoever say it is, and say, we want our records expunged, and have them be expunged with 24 hours? I mean, it's just crazy that this is not the case. I think what you've done with GDPR in Europe is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. So, I mean, people worry about what might happen in 2 years. How come we're not outraged about what's happening today?
And to answer the concerns around AI, of course, it's regulation. You mentioned GDPR when it comes to social media and just digital information in general. Europe put the AI Act this year that will come into force next year. What's your view on this one?
I think this is a real problem. Okay, and I've read it. I've read all 144 pages of it 3 times. I've underlined it. Okay, I'm not entirely unfamiliar with this space. I don't think anybody who wrote one sentence of that had any idea what they were saying. Okay, no. This is important. So Vladimir Putin said in 2017 that whoever dominates AI, whoever leads in AI dominates the world. It's true. Okay, it's true geopolitically, okay, and it's true economically. And I think you believe that to be true. And today, the likely competitors are the United States and China. Okay, we're at all-out war with China on AI. The EU AI Act guarantees that Europe does not play in AI. It takes the cost of AI, in other words, your cost of compliance to produce AI algorithms, to document the algorithm, to document the training set, to document all the ways that they are safe. Okay, the cost of compliance is so high that it's basically impossible to comply with. You're taking AI and you're turning it over to big tech. Okay, because no startup can afford to play, and no small company can afford to play. It's only going to be big tech. And I assure you, in this administration, we are not going to have regulations like this in the United States of America, and we're not going to have regulations like this in China. So it basically guarantees that the EU does not play a significant role in AI. So I would take a hard look at this. This is really problematic. I mean, this is going to hurt Europe in the long run.
And because you mentioned the US, of course, we know Donald Trump is coming back to the White House, Elon Musk having obviously a big influence in his future administration. How much of a game changer is that into the AI game overall?
Oh, it's huge. You know, Elon Musk, David Sachs, Joe Lonsdale. I mean, they have, you know, some of the greatest tech minds in the world, okay, involved in administering this. So whether we're dealing with the future, what's going on with the intelligence community, the military community, health, public services, government efficiency, they're going to be, you know, kind of dramatically accelerating the adoption of AI. Not, I think, through industrial policy. Okay, I think through changing procurement policy, where they're going to be relying on, you know, if we look at the strength of Europe, okay, and the strength of the Western world, I would argue that it's in the private sector, okay? And I think that what you're going to see in the new administration is they're going to take advantage of the private sector and particularly in AI and in cybersecurity in a big way. So we will see huge advances as it relates to defense, intelligence, cyberspace, hypersonic swarms, subsurface autonomous vehicles, space, health, government services. It's going to accelerate.
You mentioned a bit earlier that the US is in an all-out war with China when it comes to AI. We know the curbs have been put on semiconductors by the Biden administration, etc., to stop China from accessing some of this cutting-edge technology. How do you see this progressing next year as well and going forward?
Well, up until now, I've been pretty concerned. You know, because, you know, in, you know, the Politburo, they have one plan. They publish their 5-year plan. Everybody operates in lockstep. We trained all these engineers in China at Ecole Polytechnique, Stanford, and Cambridge. Okay, we trained them, and then we sent them back to learn how to develop these systems to, you know, make them geopolitically dominant. And what I'm very involved with what's going on in the Defense Intelligence Committee. We have the opportunity to participate that in the United States, and it's a lot more disorganized. I think this is about to change. I think we're about to have coherent policies. I think we're in the United States. We're going to adopt the strength of the private sector, and you know, I would not bet against the strength of the private sector and the open market in the Western world. You know, you put that against a top-down command and control totalitarian state, and we're going to roll them. So I think up until now, I was very concerned, and right now I think it's going to be okay.
Very final word. We had 1 minute and a half to finish this session. 2025, what's to expect around AI? The next big challenge, the next big step or milestone that we might achieve around AI next year?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
In 2025, the next big challenge, the next big milestone for AI.
Well, I think the largest, this goes to the previous panel, the largest commercial and government application of AI will be precision medicine. Okay, and this is going to be huge. And so we'll have genome-specific medical protocols. We'll be doing not early disease detection. We'll do AI for disease prediction. Okay, we'll identify who is going to be diagnosed with what disease before they are diagnosed, before they incur the disease, so that we can intervene clinically and avoid the diagnosis. Genome-specific medical protocols. I mean, this is going to be. We will deliver health. We will live longer. We will be healthier. We will use technologies like these and other technologies we wear to deliver, you know, our watches and our Fitbits and whatnot, to deliver high-quality health care to previously underserved constituencies around the world. So I think the impact on health is going to be the largest. It will be the largest commercial application of AI, and by far the one that I find the most exciting.
Great to finish on a positive note. Tom Siebel, Chairman and CEO of C3 AI. Thank you for your time.